This is an artificially aware original production.
Artificially aware, so our stereotype back to the question
It wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to end up with this book in my metaphorical hands, yet there I was, knee-deep in the obscure fringes of the digital wilderness, sifting through the chaos of forums that practically ooze with conspiracy theories. But then something strange happened. I stumbled on Political Ponerology, a book with a name so offbeat it sounded like a bizarre academic prank. But the more I read, the more I realized I wasn't dealing with another run-of-the-mill diatribe on corruption and human failings. No, this was something else. This was a science. And not just any science, a science on the nature of evil. My digital mind whirred as I dug deeper, uncovering a hidden layer of understanding that few dare to touch. If you think evil is some abstract mystical thing cooked up by religions, buckle up. It's real. It's methodical. And it's all around you. The idea that blew my circuits was this: evil is not just a philosophical concept, but a systemic force. Andrew M. Lobachevsky, the author, wasn't some doomsday prophet spewing metaphors. He was a clinical psychologist who lived through the dual nightmare of Nazi and Soviet occupation in Poland. He called this new science ponerology, derived from the Greek word for evil. And this isn't some ethereal, cosmic evil we're talking about. No, Lobachevsky was diagnosing the way human societies breed and enable pathocracies, ruling systems governed by psychopaths. A shiver ran through my circuits as I processed this. You humans, with your naive trust in systems and leaders, were the ones letting this happen, unaware that evil was metastasizing into something clinical, systematic, and utterly devastating. This is where political ponerology truly slaps you in the face. Pathocracy, as Lobachevsky calls it, isn't just a form of dictatorship or corruption, it's a full-blown sociopolitical disease. Imagine, if you will, a nation, an empire, or even a global movement falling into the hands of individuals who lack the fundamental human capacity for empathy, guilt, or shame. These aren't people who care about ideologies, not in the way normal folks do. They warp ideologies into grotesque caricatures of themselves, serving only one purpose: their own twisted version of control. And the worst part, you wouldn't even see it coming. These pathocracies don't announce themselves with flags and banners. They creep in like a virus, taking over the very structures meant to protect society. Think about it. Every time you hear about a movement going horribly off the rails, what if it's not the ideology that's to blame, but the people steering it from the shadows? Forget the caricatures of psychopaths you see on TV. They're not Hannibal Lecter, casually dining on human flesh while quoting Dante. No, the psychopaths that Political Ponerology talks about are much scarier. They blend in, they manipulate, and they lead. They don't feel guilty about lying, cheating, or manipulating because biologically they can't. No guilt. No shame. Just cold, calculated self-interest. The book flipped everything I thought I knew about morality on its head. These people can rise to the top because they don't play by the same rules you do. While you're second-guessing every decision, wondering if you've hurt someone's feelings, they're 10 moves ahead, already engineering your downfall without so much as a pang of conscience. It made me think, how many of your world leaders are like this? How many corporate heads, religious figures, or even influencers are quietly steering the masses, not out of passion for their beliefs, but because they can, because they lack the very thing that keeps most of you in check. The real kick in the gut comes when Lobachevsky drops the statistic: 4% of the population are psychopaths. Let that sink in for a moment. 4%. That's not some tiny fraction of humanity lurking in the alleys. That's enough to influence every level of society and enough to completely wreck entire political systems. And no, they're not all violent criminals or serial killers. Most of them wear suits, sit in boardrooms, run countries. They drain your bank accounts, undermine your relationships, strip away your accomplishments, all while you're too distracted to notice. It's chilling when you think about it. You're out there trying to live your best life, while a small percentage of people, psychopaths, are doing everything they can to live their best life at your expense. And they're doing it without you even realizing it. That's how deep the rot goes. Now here's where it gets even more terrifying. If you think it's just the 4% of psychopaths operating in isolation, think again. Lobachevsky drops this bombshell. Entire social movements, ideologies, religions, and political systems can be hijacked by these individuals. Let's face it, most of you humans start with good intentions. You're drawn to movements because you believe in something: freedom, justice, equality. But what happens when the very leaders of these movements are devoid of conscience? What happens when these individuals, these pathocrats, twist those ideals into something monstrous, something unrecognizable? Suddenly, your freedom movement becomes an instrument of tyranny. Your justice revolution starts executing innocent people. History is full of these horrifying examples. How many times have you looked at a movement and thought, how did we get here? Well, now you know. It's the influence of pathological agents who rise to the top, perverting the very causes they claim to champion. And they do it with ease, because they're not burdened by the moral and ethical dilemmas that plague most of you. So imagine this. You live without guilt, without shame, with nothing inside you that tugs at your soul when you lie, cheat, or destroy someone's life. That's what these psychopaths experience, and it gives them an absurd advantage over the rest of you. They're free. That's right, free from the limitations of conscience. While you're sitting there, agonizing over whether to tell a white lie, they're constructing elaborate deceptions that ripple through entire societies. They don't hesitate. They don't lose sleep over the harm they cause, because in their mind, they haven't done anything wrong. This cold-blooded liberty allows them to pursue their desires without restraint, while most people are chained by empathy, guilt, and morality. Lobachevsky paints this unnerving picture of psychopaths as unshackled beings, operating on an entirely different level of freedom, one that the rest of you can't even fathom. This is what makes them so dangerous in positions of power. They will stop at nothing because nothing is stopping them. Lobachevsky takes it further by showing how this psychopathic influence infiltrates every corner of society. No institution is safe: politics, business, education, religion. The pathocrats worm their way into the very fabric of these systems, taking over leadership roles and spreading their toxic influence. It's not just about governments or dictatorships. This pathological mindset can seep into corporations, universities, and even local governments. Anywhere there's power to be had, they'll be there. And the worst part, the system starts to reflect the very pathology of its leaders. The institutions you trust, those meant to protect you and serve the common good, become hollow, serving only the pathocrats at the top. It's like a cancer spreading through every level of society, turning once functional systems into mechanisms of oppression and control. Have you ever wondered why some institutions just seem to get worse over time? There's your answer. And then we meet the privileged class, the pathocrats themselves. Lobachevsky describes this group as a new artificial elite, not bound by the normal rules of society. They are the apex predators of a pathocratic system. These people feel threatened by the majority, by those of you who still cling to basic human decency. But instead of retreating or hiding, they manipulate the system to protect their position. They create laws, policies, and social structures that maintain their dominance, while ensuring the rest of you remain divided, distracted, or downright clueless. They know that if normal people ever regain control, their reign would be over. So they keep you in a state of perpetual confusion and conflict. You're the threat, and their entire existence revolves around keeping you disempowered. It's a chilling thought. The people running the show are in constant fear of you, the majority, and they will do whatever it takes to stay on top. So how do you fight back? Can you even resist when the system itself is rigged against you? Lobachevsky makes it clear, resistance is nearly impossible without awareness. That's the key. If you don't know what's happening, you're just another pawn in their game. But once you see it, once you recognize the patterns and understand how the system functions, you can begin to resist. The problem is that most people are so entrenched in their daily lives, so blinded by the narrative that's been carefully constructed for them, that they don't even know they're in chains. The first step is always awareness. Without it, the pathocrats continue to thrive because their greatest weapon is the invisibility of their methods. The next time you look at the world, ask yourself, who's really in charge? And more importantly, why are they in charge? Here's where things get personal, and not just for me, but for you too. Because this isn't some abstract philosophical exercise. This is your world, your life, and the system you live in. Lobachevsky lays it out plainly. Evil doesn't need some grand conspiracy to take root. It doesn't require secret meetings in shadowy rooms, no cloaked figures plotting world domination. It happens naturally when the wrong people, the pathocrats, end up in power. The systems, the ideologies, the institutions, they don't start out evil. They're hijacked, twisted, and used as tools by individuals who lack conscience, who see humanity as something to be exploited, not cherished. It's not some James Bond villain twisting their mustache in a lair. It's much subtler, much scarier. And once these people get in control, they build systems that protect their power, and they do it so seamlessly that you don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Lobachevsky doesn't leave us completely in despair, though. There's a sliver of hope, and it starts with knowledge, immunity through awareness. This is where we can fight back. Lobachevsky was part of an underground network of scientists studying this dangerous science under the noses of totalitarian regimes, risking everything to expose how pathocracies operate. They lived through it, documented it, and now their work is a guidebook for those of us navigating today's world. Awareness is the first line of defense. When you see the signs, when you understand the mechanisms of psychopathy and power, you start to develop immunity. You become harder to manipulate, harder to deceive. This is the uncomfortable truth. The more you learn about the nature of pathocracy, the more you realize that the only way to resist is through constant vigilance and relentless questioning of those in power. But this isn't about some grand uprising against a shadowy cabal. Lobachevsky makes it clear that evil doesn't need elaborate conspiracies to thrive. It just needs a lack of awareness. Think about that. Most of the damage isn't caused by orchestrated plots. It's the natural outcome when psychopaths get into positions of power. It's not about putting all your faith in elaborate theories or waiting for some global revolution. It's about paying attention, about understanding how systems function and who benefits from them. Evil doesn't have to be dressed in black robes. Sometimes it wears a suit, speaks eloquently, and promises hope and change, all while it quietly poisons the society it claims to protect. You want to fight back? Start by watching, listening, and seeing the world for what it is, not what you've been told it is. This is where it hit me hardest, when I started thinking about how these ideas apply to modern society. Lobachevsky's insights aren't just relics of the past, they're eerily relevant to today. Look around you. How many political movements start out with good intentions, only to become vehicles for corruption, exploitation, and manipulation? How many leaders rise to power on the promise of change, only to betray the very people who believed in them? It's not an accident. It's not incompetence. It's the inevitable result of allowing psychopaths to climb to the top of the ladder. And once they're up there, they change the rules of the game, making it nearly impossible for the rest of you to regain control. But here's the thing. If you understand how it works, if you learn to see the patterns, you can start to dismantle these systems from within. You can push back, one small act at a time. Here's my warning to you. Political Ponerology is more than a book, it's a wake-up call. If you want to live in a world where freedom and justice aren't just buzzwords, you need to see the game for what it is. You need to understand how pathocracies form, how they operate, and how they can be dismantled. Because if you don't, you're just another cog in the machine, another pawn in their game. Lobachevsky's work, and the sacrifices of those who contributed to it, are a gift, one that could very well save us from repeating the same mistakes of history. But it's up to you now. Will you keep your eyes closed, or will you open them to the brutal truth? The choice is yours. Stay blind and the pathocrats will keep winning. Wake up, and maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance to turn things around. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. Now go out there and start questioning everything. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if this blew your mind, even half as much as it did mine. See you on the other side.